Hi, and welcome to another live Q&A at the Facebook Coronavirus Yorkshire Business Support Group. Today, we'll be talking about LinkedIn. We've got Nigel Cliff with us. Do you want to say hello?
Hi, folks. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Johnny.
Absolute pleasure. So we're going to be talking about LinkedIn, how to improve your profile, how to not feel embarrassed about someone having a look at it, all sorts of different things. We really want your questions. If you do have questions, please do ask. We've got a comments box. Please pop the questions in your comments. My live Q&A this morning didn't quite work, but I'm hoping this afternoon's does with regard to putting questions in there. We're streaming live on Facebook in the group. We're streaming live in YouTube. If you're watching this on the replay, put hashtag replay because it'll help us understand how people consume this content. Nigel, it'll be good to just hear if you could introduce yourself. Tell us how you've got into this and what you do.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, LinkedIn. It's a funny. People used to say to me, "You do what? LinkedIn training? What's that? Is that a thing?" For about 10 years, I've been doing LinkedIn training, and since 2014, pretty much full time. And it started simply initially by helping organisations develop a presence on LinkedIn, sort of on their behalf. Had some early success. People started saying to me, "Can you show us how you do that?" And I put a little deck together, and that worked fine. Before I knew it, I was speaking at events and conferences and thought, there's a new business here. So I turned Value Exchange which was originally just a capturing brand for the product, into a business in 2014, and pretty much done it 100% ever since, and absolutely love it. It makes an impact. So that's how I got into it.
And what's the thing when you're on LinkedIn, because you're on LinkedIn a lot? I've dragged you over to this, to be in Facebook, and I think you nearly had a bit of a heart attack when I mentioned it. But but when you're on LinkedIn, I'm assuming there's lots of occasions where you're just looking and thinking, there's so much opportunity here, and you're just not taking it. Is that fair to say?
All the time. I'm totally frustrated by seeing the quality of people's profiles being poor, or their engagement being technically wrong to maximize the algorithmic potential of what they're doing. And of course, you want to help the world put it all right. Well, that's supposed to have a living for as long as they're not doing. But yeah, there's so few people maximize this platform effectively. It's staggering. But once they do, the light bulb comes on. Such an opportunity.
So just to say that if you do put comments, we will show them and ask you questions. So, for example, I've got someone here saying, "Hello, looking forward to learning more." I can see that that's Nick Bradley. If StreamYard hasn't got your permission to show your face and username, it won't. But if you want to put your name and company in the comment, then I'll happily read it out as well. So I assume the first place to start when we're on LinkedIn, Nigel, is the profile. What are the things that we need to be thinking about? What's the what are the common mistakes? What are the common things that you need to put right on people's profiles?
Well, commonly people don't think of LinkedIn as the first place that people are likely to go when beginning a relationship with them. So, Johnny, I often ask an audience of people, are you proud of your LinkedIn profile? And about 5% of the hands go up. It's a really low proportion of people who are actually proud of the profile. And I figure, did you get out of bed this morning and not get dressed properly and come here, to an event, not combing your hair, or, of course not. So why are you therefore not proud of your LinkedIn profile? Because that is the place that most people will visit now, before sending you an email, before developing a relationship, certainly before having a meeting with you. And therefore, I think conversely, 90% of profiles are letting people down at the first hurdle. They're coming to your shop window, and you're letting yourself down, badly at that very first interaction. So what a shame that is. Why aren't people absolutely proud of their profile and getting all right? So great profile photo, filling the headspace with the shop, because your engagement on LinkedIn ends up going as a little tiny picture of yourself. So if it's anything but your headshot, you're missing the opportunity for that recognition, smiling at the camera, looking at the lens, none of this moody stuff looking up in the sky. And you want to make that first impression as powerful as you can. So have eye contact with the lens on your profile photo. dress appropriately for the place, and make sure it's doing the job it should. Beyond their background picture, that's a lot of people don't utilize that effectively. It's free, why not? Quick giveaway, and just quickly on this, because there's so much to learn just on profile alone. The headline, the strapline that goes underneath your name is such a powerful vehicle to get across to the viewer of your profile what you do and how you can help them. So letting LinkedIn take that over and just having it default to your company name and your job title is sort of such a lost opportunity to have a strapline to your brand, and in that brand, utilize the keywords that you'd like to be found for, and have that sense of how you can help somebody when they view your profile. 120 characters in that space, so powerful. Many people don't bother with it. So there's a couple of really quick tips.
Yeah, and just to show you some other people that are watching. So Tim, I can see comments on my other screen who these people are. Tim Collins is asking how he can improve his Simon on the Streets sleeping post. Well, there we go. I think we've probably just improved it for you. Nikki Taylor's just saying hello. We've got someone else looking forward to hearing from Nigel. Fancy Dress Bash. They're going to be making notes as we go. And Kathy Burns, I believe, is saying hello there, which is lovely to see. Thank you. Nigel, you made a good point there, which was around the background image. So many people don't even use one, do they?
It's interesting, actually, Johnny. I've seen a big increase in the use of background images. So even 6 months ago, you could almost look through a whole series of images and 50% of them definitely wouldn't have used one. I'm seeing a rapid increase. I think there is an awareness building of LinkedIn. Possibly in this lockdown, people have more chance to go and look at what's good and what isn't, so that they have more time to do it. So I'm seeing an increase, but still so many people underutilize. They just default to that sort of blue starry kind of graphic that LinkedIn defaults to, which is just a complete waste of an opportunity. The old adage, a picture tells 1,000 words. It's that. So if you can embrace the story of what you do and how you help somebody in that image, then it's a really powerful product, and it's for free. So why wouldn't you?
We're going to try and cover lots of different topics today, and we'll just see where we get to. We're going to be talking about things like articles versus posts. We're going to talk about company pages, groups, how best to use LinkedIn, how to connect. So there's lots of different areas we're going to cover. But sticking on the profile for a bit longer, you talked about the headline. You talked about keywords. What makes a good headline?
It's, if you've never done a piece of work on yourself to actually identify what the keywords are in your own life or your business related life, then it's a really useful exercise to go through. So I encourage people to take some time out, just put on a piece of paper everything that's important to you, the keywords associated with your business, your skills, just write it down, pen and paper, fine. And from that piece of work where you're kind of dumping your thoughts onto a piece of paper, from it will come the keywords that sort of sit back in, at you. And if you imagine putting call me old-fashioned, a piece of tracing paper over the top and highlighting keywords, this is really old-fashioned, but you'll find that certain keywords come through. So for me, it's like LinkedIn, strategy, training, lead generation, those kind of keywords. So I would then make sure that those keywords are put in that headline, and then I try to turn that into a personal statement of, I help my customers to. And if you can get the essence of that across, then that's job done. I think of it, there's another context. People talk about the 15-second elevator pitch. It's in a sales environment. You meet the chairman of the company you want to do business with in the lift, and you've got 15 seconds to explain what you do. Most people start, they don't have a crystal clear statement of who they are and what they do. So it's a bit like your 15-second elevator pitch on LinkedIn. Get it in that title box, and it sets, and also its values is in the search engine optimization value on LinkedIn as well, which are also enriched in your about section, in your experience section, and in your skills. So don't forget that LinkedIn is an engine, a bit like Google in a way, where the more of the keywords and activity you can have around your industry sector, the more the algorithms are going to understand what it is you've got, and number of things happen. The right people are wanting to connect with you because of those skills. the algorithms are picking you up, presenting content to you in your homepage feed because of the algorithmic attraction to those keywords. So, and most people just completely underutilize, for example, the about section. They just either copy the company webpage content and stick it in there. And it's just such a rich area to explain to an audience that's wanting to know more how you can help them, what you do. So, you've got 2,600 characters in there to tell that story. So you're not short of space. And people say to me, well, Nigel, nobody's going to read it. Well, you're right. 95% of the people who view your profile will not read it. But you know what? The 5% who do want to read it, want to know it, those are going to be your future clients and customers. So why waste an opportunity to match your services to what they're looking for? So that's another feature of improving a LinkedIn profile that many people just don't maximize.
Well, so is it the same concept with regard to what you were saying about the headline as the about section, the bio? Is it using that similar language? Are there any tips or tricks on how that bio should open, or the type of wording that you're using there, not just from a keyword point of view, but from just the way you speak the language?
It should be as conversational as you can make it. I think all channels we recognize now are moving with a bit more personality. So it's not all about business, and you copy and pasting, the homepage of the website into that section is not going to cut it. This is about you and your profile. So it's about writing it in the first person. That it's about you. It's not. You don't write about yourself in the third person on your own profile. So also put your contact information there in there. There's another tip, because if we're not connected with each other on LinkedIn as a first degree connection, we cannot see each other's contact details. So another tip, make sure your contact details are in there for anybody who looks at your profile, who wants to get in touch, because I use this expression, LinkedIn confidence. Not everybody's LinkedIn confident, and therefore, they may not feel appropriate to reach out to you and ask for a connection request. So therefore, let's quick fire that relationship to a phone call, to an email. LinkedIn is there to do a job, to help crystallize an early part of a relationship and build trust in an ongoing relationship. Don't miss the opportunity to get that connectivity right to email into your inbox as soon as you can. I use the expression, get the relationship off LinkedIn as soon as you possibly can. You're not going to create a sale there. You're not going to win a job there. It's a part to play in that customer journey of building your trust and your brand in order to get to the next level, whatever that next level is for you.
You've just actually tapped into something that I was just thinking, and I'm guessing a lot of viewers will be thinking the same. That can you actually win business with LinkedIn? What part does it play, and how much how much business can I think a lot of people still think of it as a recruitment platform, still think of it as just loads of spam.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Does it win business? You might imagine doing LinkedIn, pretty much, not all, but much of my business comes through my engagement and my activity on LinkedIn. That's not to underplay meeting people at networking events or speaking at conferences. Of course, that all adds to the personal brand and my messaging. But undoubtedly, building the relationships on LinkedIn for all my clients is the crux of the matter. So, I do call this process lead generation. But a little bit of me feels slightly uncomfortable about being categorized in the same way that those automated kind of lead generators are now using the language of creating. This is about lead generation, but in a meaningful, trust-building environment, and it's not automated lead generation, which I hate with a passion. Anybody comes along and says, I can generate you 30 leads, and you pay me £500 a month. We'll outsource your LinkedIn process. Really, when it comes down to it, all they're doing is creating noise from a profile that's going out into the digital ether and is having no impact whatsoever. It's got no personality, it's got no relevance, it's got no knowledge, it's got no personality, and I don't believe you can automate that particularly well successfully. There are certain tiny functions, perhaps, but honestly, most people, when I ask the question, how many new pieces of business do you need in the next 12 months to make your business really successful? And the answer to that question is rarely more than 10. Honestly, business to business relationships, rarely more than 10. And so I asked myself, well, you know, when you get in front of that person and with the right product and the chemistry is good, what's your conversion rate on that opportunity? And they said pretty high. You know, we win a lot of those opportunities. So, okay, let's imagine that I lower the percentage and I take the highest figure of 10. I lower the percentage to 50. You need 20 prospects in your pipeline this year, do you, to make yourself successful? Yeah, I guess if you put it that way, I do. Okay, so why not concentrate using LinkedIn to absolutely have a focused strategy on being attractive with your content to the right people, the right 20 people who are going to make you successful in the next 12 months? Oh, I see what you mean. So that will probably nicely lead us into the question about connections and, you know, how many connections should we have? Because if you're focusing with the content to the right audience, that's the way to make yourself attractive to the people who might be a future clients. And trying to be everything to everybody simply isn't going to work these days. In a sense, the more niche you have in terms of your value, the more likely you're going to hit the target you're looking to seek. So it does raise the question of connections, which I know was something we talked about before, wasn't it? And I think we've got mixed strategies on our connection strategy. I use, you know, who should we connect with? And certainly in the past, I think it was more the case that a lot of people would accept pretty much any connection request coming in with the belief that, I'm not going to quote you from what we said earlier, Johnny, but that you never know who somebody knows who knows somebody knows. I think that's rubbish, frankly. The chances of somebody knowing somebody who knows somebody knows somebody and that ending up as a pound in your bank account is so negligibly small. I think it actually deflates, it limits the value of your LinkedIn experience by being connected to people who can add value to your life, or you can add value to theirs. And that's a criteria I use when adding somebody to my as a connection. So, you know, thankfully, I have all my connections are built upon people wishing to connect with me. Luckily, I don't have to reach out to ask many people to wish to connect with me. I'm very lucky. But when I get a batch of connection requests coming in, I go through them individually, one by one. It's time consuming, it really is. I use that criteria to decide whether I'm going to let them into my network or not, because I feel I'm a product of the people I surround myself with. You know, all my customers, my clients, my friends, my prospects, and that makes me very special. Okay, those people are special to me. That makes me special because I'm kind of a product of all of the people I bounce off and experience. So if I weaken that sense of connectivity with an audience that doesn't really know me and I don't know them, and they're based in all corners of the globe and our relevances are so little to each other, then the net effect of that is it actually weakens the strength of my profile and the experience I have of LinkedIn, which is born of the people I'm connected to. So if I'm connected to, you know, a highly valuable, relevant bunch of people, then my whole experience on LinkedIn is so much improved over being connected to everybody's dog, and therefore the experience of all their content flowing into my stream is also weakened by default. And therefore people increasingly say to me, oh, LinkedIn, it's getting like Facebook. We're on Facebook. You know, and that tells me that that person is not particularly strategic about their connection strategy and are pretty much connecting to everybody, and therefore having a weaker experience as a consequence. Does that make sense?
It really does, and you know, yeah, we did discuss it before. I mean, I class myself as a bit of a LinkedIn tart, and I do.
I use the worst word.
I do typically connect with anyone. You know, you're the LinkedIn expert. I'm a broad marketeer. My expertise is search engine optimization, and you know, at the same time, there's not always rights and wrongs, but it's good to hear. In fact, someone said it, and I'll bring it up. I think it's Tim Kitchen. It's you've set some context around it. So he's put useful tips set in context, and the point here is that you know, it's that targeted approach, isn't it? And with regard to those endless connection requests, Wayne Jackson's got a question here. Is there any way of blocking spam, such as those offering me endless leads? I don't know if there is. Is there a? Yeah.
Well, it assumes that you've allowed a connection between you in the first place. So you've got a couple of options. If a person that you've connected with in the past is basically sending you spam content, delete them. Simple. Yeah, just go into the profile, delete, and end off.
And you can block people as well, can't you?
You
You
can block them
can
as well,
block an individual.
hide their content coming into your feed of that specific person. So that's not sort of going to the extent of deleting them. It's just blocking them. They don't know that you've blocked them, and they don't know you've deleted them either, unless you make the mistake in the profile visibility of mode of visiting their profile before you delete them. Then you've left kind of a digital signal. You've been to the profile, they happen to go looking back at you because you've looked at them and they can't find you. There's only one net conclusion, that you've deleted them. So just be careful if you're going to go into wholesale culling of your connections mode. Then you turn off the visibility of viewing the profile first, go into culling mode, and then turn it back on afterwards. Because actually remaining visible as leaving a digital footprint on a profile is really important, because it shows interest in the person, and particularly on a free account, you only get to see the last 5 people who viewed you. But if you go to anonymous mode in kind of a permanent state, the visibility of the people who view you is turned off for you while you remain in anonymous mode. This is hard to explain in video, but do you get my drift? So if you go anonymous, the people who are viewing you are completely anonymous too. So do turn yourselves back on to being visible when you're viewing a profile, because that way the highly valuable intelligence of people who are viewing you is then still available to you, even on a free account, where you get the last 5 people viewing your profile.
Yeah, I mean, so what Wayne's saying here is he's just fed up of getting the requests and he doesn't accept them. He's looking for a blanket way to stop spam requests. I don't think there's a blanket way. You've got to deal with each one individually, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you've certainly converted some people here, because Kathy Burns, she's saying that that makes sense. I think I'll go and clear out some contacts. And we've got Simon.
Yeah, just one little thing I'd say on that there is a sense in which everybody's account has an algorithmic intensity by virtue of number of connections. So this is going a little bit deeper on the topic, but if you've only got a few hundred connections, don't start deleting half of them, because you're almost becoming algorithmically too small to have an impact. But if you've got, say, more than 500 connections, and I use that figure not because it stops displaying the number, but just because it seems to make sense to me. If you've got more than 500 connections, then go and clear 50 out. That's fine. But if you've got only a handful of connections, don't start killing them before you've added some more, if that makes sense. It's an algorithmic sort of sense of having some algorithmic attention if you've got several hundred profile connections in the first place.
Yeah, and more about culling here. Simon Robertson saying, as a long-standing LinkedIn user, would Nigel advise a cull of contacts who are clearly not active or engaging? I think the answer is you're saying yes.
Absolutely. Listen, for I'm an old guy, okay, and I've been on this platform since 2007. It started out in 2002, so I've been here a long time, and I've got something like 4,700 connections. Now, that's an awful lot of connections, but honestly, if I'd have wanted LinkedIn's ceiling of 30,000 connections, I could have had that years ago, but I just say to every audience I've ever met, please connect with me on LinkedIn. So here I am now with 30,000 connections. I can't add any more. I can't possibly know 30,000 people. So the net, for the reasons previously explained, the net value of all that connectivity is probably actually weakening my net presence on LinkedIn. So by limiting and vetting really carefully every single connection that I've ever accepted, I know that the quality of that network is very, very high, and therefore, I've got something really valuable. It's a massive asset, and I treat it like that, with huge respect.
I'm only looking at another screen because I've got another screen here. I'm looking for people's names. So Munir has just asked a perfect question, because it was my next question. Do you think LinkedIn premium offering is worth it? So my question was around free, paid, upgrades. There's lots of different options.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Okay. Do you need to pay LinkedIn any money to be successful? No. Okay. Straight off the bat, no. But the majority of people who pay for premium, and those who even pay for Sales Navigator, which is sort of the level above, are probably wasting the money. It's like, many of us will drive a vehicle. A Formula One vehicle can do things way beyond our ability to handle. Can I drive a car? I can drive a car. Could I drive a Formula One car? No. So sitting me in the seat of a Formula One vehicle is probably a waste of time. Putting tools around you that you're not maximizing on LinkedIn is probably a waste of time if you're not maximizing what you've got for free. So most people are just underutilizing LinkedIn's free options, and therefore have absolutely no advantage of paying money to LinkedIn for features that don't enhance their experience in any way. The features for you to use and maximize what you can achieve from the platform. If you're not maximizing free, what's the point in paying for something that you're not maximizing either? So having said that, okay, I'm not saying that the upgrades don't have a value. So for instance, I have Premium and I have Sales Navigator, albeit I recently decided I'm not going to renew Sales Navigator. What the biggest single advantage I find from Premium as an upgrade is the long-term ability to see all the people that have viewed my profile. So if I've mentioned it before, on a free account, you get to see the last 5 people. On a premium account, you can see the last number of people who viewed your profile in the last 90 days. So I can now relax. You know, I don't need to be jumping on LinkedIn every day to see who the last 5 people were before they disappear off the feed. So I can be relaxed. I can visit it once a day, a few times a week, and just scroll through the last number of people who viewed my profile. So I think from memory, my last number of views on my profile in the last 90 days today is around 900. So what an opportunity to explore those people who are interested in me. They haven't woke up in the morning and typed Nigel Cliff into the search bar on LinkedIn, COPS, that's nuts. So there has to be a reason they've looked at me. There's some interest. I've engaged in a conversation that's triggered some interest for them to look. So the most highly valuable piece of intelligence on the LinkedIn platform is that who's viewed you. What links can you make from your knowledge of the person, the company, the people you've met, to see that somebody's looking at you? Now that's either a connection, super, hey Johnny, I saw you look at my profile this week, how you doing? We haven't spoken for a few weeks, kind of thing. Or for a new visitor to your profile that's categorized in your target market, to use the sort of the marketing expression. So if a person looks at your profile who's an absolute candidate for your business, then what about the opportunity to use that moment to make the connection and look back at that person's profile, and then very gently over a period of time get into a situation where you reach out for a connection request on the basis of some interest in each other. And there's a whole protocol behind that I don't have time to explain. So it's not about jumping onto it. I saw you look at my profile, can we connect? That's not the way to do it. But there are other ways to tease it. So if somebody looks at your profile, perhaps go and engage with their content, build up the relationship, build up your trust in their, I call it their digital peripheral vision. Be on the verges of the outside of the bar, having a chat with other colleagues, and eventually sort of work your way into being at a point in time when then you can ask for that connection request, and the person's going, yeah, I'll see you around. I'm feeling comfortable with your brand. So being careful and strategic about how, when, and how you develop those relationships with key opportunities is a critical part of LinkedIn. And just diving all over it, just because somebody's looked at your profile, so you look at profile, let's connect. Whoa, back off a little. Just this is a long-term game. I mean, we have short-term wins, but generally speaking, you play the long game on LinkedIn, and it will deliver you huge rewards. Hit it like everything's a selling opportunity, and you'll fail. People just do not like being sold to on LinkedIn. So come off that pedal completely.
This is social, not selling, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So your key point here with regard to free versus paid is maximize free before you even consider paid. But one of the big advantages of paid is being able to look at who's looked at your profile, and there's some benefit in that. So we've got a couple of questions which again people must have known exactly what we were going to be talking about and the order we were going to be talking about it in, because it does come onto company pages. So we've got Kate Elizabeth Thompson asking, is there an effective way of getting people to follow your business page? We're both of us are sort of slightly smiling at that. And then we've got another question here from Joe Krebin, which is the value in having a company page, and is if there is, what is the best way to use it? So brings us nicely onto company pages. Talk to us about company pages.
Okay, right. I love talking about this subject more than any other, because it's one topic which people are getting wrong all over the place. We engage with each other on LinkedIn. Okay, we have relationships with connections, people to people relationships. Companies on LinkedIn are kind of a third party object, inanimate object. You can't have a conversation with a company. It doesn't work. So let me tell you, anybody out there who's thinking that the strategy of connecting and trying to build influence through the company page is a thing, forget it. It doesn't work. It's a complete and utter waste of time. All right, I'm just saying it as it is. Go research it. Go and look at anybody's company page and go down to the reactions and comments and engagement with that company post, and you'll find it's almost zero. Won't mention names. I was with a company. I could pick any company. Literally, I could go to any company page and analyze their posting of content over the last 6 months. And without exaggeration, I could put a full stop on a single post on a page and do nothing else, and get more interaction on a full stop than ever a company does with its company page content. So it doesn't work. Why is it? Let me explain why. You first of all don't know who your company page followers are. Unlike we know our connections, we don't know our company page followers. Usually it's a very small number of people. Company page content rarely gets posted as material that ends up in your feed on a LinkedIn post anyway. And why is that? Why would that be? Because they want to charge you for the privilege of putting your content as promoted content in front of an audience. So why are they going to give you that privilege for free? So honestly, company page content does not work in terms of an engagement vehicle. Engagement and opportunity comes from us sharing, communicating on LinkedIn as individuals. So in answer to the question, well, why do we bother with a company page? Yes, it's absolutely important to have a company page, if for no other reason than it does sort of provide additional trust in your personal brand, particularly if you're an individual that works for yourself, for example. Like me, for example, I work for myself. I don't employ anybody, but I've got a company page because it legitimizes me against a company with a logo. So on the profile page, or right at the top of your personal brand, instead of having that little grey box that appears like you're sort of homeless on LinkedIn, it brings through the logo from the company. So for that reason alone, it's a really good idea to have a company page and fill out the website details, what the company does, blah, 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 the few fields that the company page affords. And if I was being really sort of, if I'm advising you correctly, post something once a month on your company page, just so it doesn't look like it's gone to sleep, okay? But don't expect engagement from it. That comes from us. Build your brand, build a personal brand, build the ambassadorship of your brand through yourself or the people you employ. Make them the ambassadors of your brand. That way, you've got multiple channels of content generation, whereas the company page just doesn't communicate with anybody. It's not interesting. It's corporate. Nobody's interested in it. Sorry if that's a bit of a letdown for some people out there, but I talked to some, very large companies about this who employ me to come and talk strategy. And in fact, I'm having the third session of 3 sessions with a client in London tomorrow afternoon, the marketing department of a big organization, exactly on this point, where when I pointed out to them how it was going wrong, oh my goodness, you're right. And we looked at the stats, I wasn't making this up. They can go and see their own stats. So they got it. Now they're building the ambassadorship of making sure that all the people who represent their brand, which are hundreds of people, are done better than they presently are. And the impact on their brand around LinkedIn and elsewhere, I can't tell you. It'll be immeasurably different when they go around it that way than the way they have been doing in the past.
Yeah, and you made another point there, which was around if you've got teams of people. One of the things that often business owners don't consider, or sales directors or marketing directors, is actually this team of people they've got could be doing so much more than the company page is doing. And apart from a tiny little bit from my personal point of view, you might get a bit of SEO value having the company page. But I agree, there's no engagement, and it's not the place to be spending your time. Wayne Jackson is agreeing. People buy people. Joe Krebin is saying a relief, Nigel. Not sure what she's exactly referring to there. So I've got another question which I'll come on to in a second. But yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it is about spending more time on your profile than your company page. Okay, we're going to talk about. We've talked about connections. We've talked about who to connect with. Is there anything that we missed on connections with regard to maybe the approach, or with regard, if you wanted to connect with someone, the best approach, or if you were trying to, convert a conversation into something a bit more meaningful? Anything to discuss there?
Yeah, sure. When I receive connection requests, the ones that stand out to me are the ones that have been personalized. The people that have taken the trouble to say, hey, Nigel, I saw a recent post and valued that and thought it'd be nice to connect with you. Kind regards, Sarah. Yeah. How nice is that? As opposed to, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. So this is how many people treat LinkedIn. I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. Oh, okay, connect. End of. What's the point in that? But I've now got another connection. What is the point of that? I ask you. So every connection request I make, and I have already said I don't make very many, I always personalize the invitation. Hi, Johnny. I saw you at an event recently. It was lovely to chat with you. I'd be honored to have you as a connection here on LinkedIn. Kind regards, Nigel at Value Exchange, telephone number, email address. Personable. And when you send that sort of request to somebody's inbox, they rarely decline the connection request. So that's just courteous. It's just common sense. Do you know what? I get frustrated. People get behind a keyboard, as we are now, or on the device, and all that etiquette and kindness goes out the window. Somehow we all become 140 characterized. Everything's got to be a snippet. Just the human interaction that we have if we met in person goes out the window. And I figure if you go make a little bit of effort to add some of that back into a digital early relationship, you stand out a million miles from everybody else who doesn't bother. This particular case, if your experience is delivered mostly from a mobile phone or iPad, you're on the app version, then you've kind of got to go around the corner to get to being able to put an invite in, because when you hit connect, it's gone. Whereas when you do that on the desktop, it pops up, would you like to send a message to this person? Yes, I would. And then you put your message in that box. So if you're being strategic about LinkedIn as a vehicle for business development, to grow your business, your personal brand, whatever your objectives are, I urge you to spend more time on the desktop, because it's just a better experience than on the app. But the app is particularly bad in the respect of you see something you'd like to connect with, you click connect, you think, oh, well, that's all gone. You have to go around the circles to personalize a message, which of course on your mobile takes time, takes patience, and people don't do it. So, and also this connection space, even if somebody doesn't send an invitation personally, do you know what? I still send them a message back. So I say, hey, Johnny, thank you for requesting a connection. I'm delighted to accept. And then I've got a variety of template answers to, I was wondering how I might be able to help you. Listen, it'd be nice to share content on LinkedIn. Look forward to seeing you around. Just some nice, gentle language about, hey, I'm happy to have you as a new friend, kind regards, Nigel. And I've got various templates of that. So if depending on the nature of the relationship, that will tempt a person into wanting to take it further. I may sometimes go, I'm really curious, what a fantastic profile you've got. We've got a lot of common connections. I wonder what it was that made you wish to connect with me. I'd love to explore that if you've got a minute. Do you fancy virtual coffee? I mean, virtual coffees are now a thing, but I was using that expression like 5 years ago. Virtual coffee. Well, it's like you can sit in PJs, right, building relationships with people and have multiple virtual coffees over Zoom, as I've been doing for years, without the need to get in your car, go to Starbucks, spend 20 quid, car parking fees. It's like half a day to go and have a 10-minute meeting with somebody, and in 10 minutes you know whether the chemistry is right or wrong. Whereas you can do that multiple times in a day on LinkedIn if you choose, and have those virtual coffees. And you both know when the opportunity is right. You both say, listen, this has been fantastic. Let's have a real coffee. Let's meet. Now, when you meet, you're not verifying the value of that meeting anymore. Now you get into the meat and the gravy of having a meeting. Do you see where I'm coming from? So it's been patient and respectful about that connection request, which is why I reject half of the connection requests that I get made of me, because I want to nurture the ones that I receive versus have no relationship with any of them because I haven't got the time. So that's why I'm really selective. And honestly, Johnny, I've literally many occasions, somebody's viewed my profile in the morning. I've reached out to them thinking there's an opportunity here, and I've sent an invoice in the same day. Right? You talk about winning business on LinkedIn. I run a workshop, so it's usually for a workshop sale. But Nigel, I'm not sure I'm getting most out of LinkedIn. You seem like a guy who can help me. Can we connect? Yeah, sure. Hey, do you want a 5-minute conversation just to give you a few tips on LinkedIn? I can sure as hell help you in the next 15 minutes. Oh, would you do that for me? Yeah, of course I would. On the phone, they go, wow, this has been incredible. What more can you do for me? Well, did you know I run a LinkedIn workshop? Yeah. Do you want to book on that? Yes. Invoice. Boom.
Nice.
Nice. Why would you want to do that if you could? Honestly, so it works. It absolutely works. You can absolutely win business on LinkedIn.
So just to remind you all, if you do want to ask questions, please do. We're here for probably another 15-20 minute tops. We'll see how time goes. But if you've got questions, please do ask. If you're watching on replay, let us know by putting #replay in. And if this is helping, please like and comment, and tell your friends to join the group, Facebook Coronavirus Yorkshire Business Support Group. We've got Nigel Bradley's just asking a question. I think you've already answered it, but we'll just reiterate that. I think there are different strategies and people have different ways of doing things. He's asking about automation, so he's asking, are there any automation tools that you can recommend, I guess, but you're well against automation.
Yeah, I really am. Not to go over the same point again, but do you know what? You can't automate relationships.
Yeah.
A genuine relationship cannot be automated. I mean, can we not all see it coming? You get a standard kind of formatted letter where your name's been inserted on LinkedIn, and you just know you're one of a number. I'm not a number. I'm a person. Talk to me one-on-one, and as soon as I sense automation is in that spirit of trying to connect with me, I'm out of here. I don't want to be another number in your database, pal. Yeah? I want to be a relationship, and if we're going to have a relationship, then let's develop that.
You talk about very targeted approaches, targeted relationships. So is the way you see LinkedIn, is it more for business to business and businesses that have a small number of clients, or do you see opportunity in LinkedIn for even consumer products and a much bigger scope, or does that not make any difference?
No, I think there is a big difference, to be honest. I concentrate on what I call business to business relationships on LinkedIn. So I genuinely don't think that LinkedIn is a platform for consumer based products. However, as with everything in life, there are always exceptions. There are some people who sell shoes very successfully on LinkedIn. There are some people who sell flowers very successfully on LinkedIn. And I think that's because they've they've got a personality. They developed a relationship with an audience, and they attract the sales through that personality. So, you know, as ever, there are exceptions. But you say, is it for big, small businesses? Let me tell you that some of the most complex organizations in the world are having to reconsider, in the light of social technologies, how their engagement works. So some of the businesses and establishments that I work with are very locked down to communicating at all. So how do they operate in a world where new employees are coming into their business or into their organization who've got a digital presence? I mean, do they lock themselves out of that? No, they can't. They can't. So these are people with a digital footprint in the world. So there's a new challenge coming around in some areas of our lives where you can no longer avoid the fact that a personal brand matters. Whether you're on the front line of a selling role or you're in a supportive role as an engineer or a backup, you know, everybody's got a part to play in the ambassadorship of that brand. And therefore, you know, whether you're a one-man band, 10, 20, 100,000, 10,000, the same issues matter. And I don't think in this regard, size matters at all. The better you can make the ambassadors of your brand at this engagement of what's on offer, the more successful you'll be. That you've just got most businesses have got an untapped resource to actually make the people better on LinkedIn, to tell the stories that benefit them, not just on the front line, not just the salespeople, but you know, there's more authenticism through an engineer telling a story about how you resolved the client's problem from the heart, from the knowledge, you know, the trust in that depth, than ever the salesman. I use that word loosely. Telling you all of the pros and cons of this object or this service. So everybody can have a part to play in this, and you know, I wish I could wave a magic wand across all businesses to understand the power of this. Those who do are firing on all cylinders. They've just recognised the opportunity, and their LinkedIn presence is directly attributable to increases in website traffic, increases in conversions and opportunities. No doubt whatsoever.
There's a meaty topic I want to get into before we finish, which is around articles versus posts. So articles are where you can do some kind of blog on LinkedIn. Post is where you go onto the homepage of LinkedIn and you can put some kind of status. And also, whilst we're debating about articles and posts and understanding the differences and the pros and cons, I want to get into the content. What makes good content? What makes a good post? What makes a good article? We've got Rue Goodman asking a question: how often should you post on your personal page? And is it better not to talk about business matters all the time, but show personality and engage with people that way? So it's around the content, the perhaps how often, how to use posts, how to use articles. So there's quite a few questions there. Can you talk us through the content side of LinkedIn?
Really good questions. Thanks everybody for asking those. Do you know what? There are two rules. There are two things to get right on LinkedIn. Number one is have a great profile. Number two is, guess what? Engage. Okay, and that engagement comes through that, you know, technically a post or an article at that content distribution level. So here's the difference between a post and an article. Posts get you engagement on LinkedIn. So they're the short form blogs, they're snippets of content, either through video, through text only, through image, or through document. And those are extremely good at getting you the traction through posts. That's where the engagement comes. That's where you get the likes and even more valuably, the comments. So the secret to success in terms of a content strategy is produce information which is relevant to the audience you're trying to attract. Be conversational, be giving in terms of value, share what you know. When I'm talking at a deeper level about this in terms of what should form a content strategy, the easiest place to start is tell people what you know. And and I use the example, if I illustrate this for a second, if I'm doing a workshop on LinkedIn, I go around the room at the early few minutes and say, look, I'm pleased to be here. What is it you want to know today? Right, go around the room. Just give me one thing each, and I'll write it on a flip chart, sort of alongside. And I later on, when reflecting on this topic of content strategy, I say, what do you think you should? Where do you think your content strategy should start, folks? Looking at them back in the room. This is sort of half a day on. And they go, no idea. Don't know where to start on content. I'll tell you. What about starting there? And they go, where? That flip chart. What do you mean? Well, that's what you came into the room wanting to know. Do you think that's the first time I've written those questions down on the board, folks? And they go, no, probably not. No, I've written them hundreds, if not thousands of times, but I write them down hundreds of times a year. And I say to them, that is where I start with my content. The things that my audience wants to know is where I start with the content and the understanding, the learning, the giving of knowledge. So, and I said, I'm no different to you, by the way. Just because I'm talking about LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is absolutely no different to any subject. All of us get asked questions by our audiences, by our customers, our prospect customers all the time. If that's what our customers want to know, turn that back into your content strategy. Replay. Do you know what I've been asked this question 5 times this week? How do you do this on a Mac if you're in IT? How do you fix this plumbing problem? If everybody can do it. That's the stuff that people want to know. I'm not an expert in plumbing or in vehicle maintenance or in pensions finance. So if somebody says to me, do I really need to answer simplest questions, Nigel? Don't everybody know that? They don't, because that's not their specialization. So take it back to basics and share knowledge as a part of a strategy. So posts are where you get activity and engagement. So where does an article feature? Well, articles on LinkedIn are a much longer form of content, as you said, Johnny. They're a more in-depth piece of content around a topic. So I figure the value of me producing articles occasionally on LinkedIn is to endorse me as a thought leader in my space. So I look at it this way: if all I ever did was short form posts on LinkedIn, and it was all kind of snippet content, then a visitor to my profile might go, well, it's all very nice, but is there any depth to this guy? It's all tidbits, So if I write occasional articles that go much deeper, for example, into content, which is one of the articles I wrote recently, I say, look, I talk about content a lot, and I can't tell you everything in a post of what I'm thinking around content. So why don't you go to my article and read a really deep, thought through piece of content on actually what does content mean, good content mean on LinkedIn? And the answer to that is in an article. So the value in producing articles is not because you'll get engagement all on them, albeit you do, but the number of views I would get from a piece of article content is in the hundreds. Whereas if I do posts on a regular basis, and I'll talk about frequency in a second, I will get thousands of views and engagement with a post. So you don't get that on articles. So I think it's a balance of having the two. So I will do an article every couple of months, perhaps. I should do more, if I'm honest, but the engagement comes on posts. So I'm in there engaging all the time. And articles are hard to write. They're the deep stuff that they might take me a day plus to write. So I'll be doing that over a period of time. Going back to your specialization, though, Johnny, SEO, content written in an article on LinkedIn also is spidered and botted by Google. So there's a double benefit to writing articles in this context, in that content actually finds its way searchable by Google. So you're getting double the bang for your buck. And if you've got a business, you're probably also going to put that content as a long form blog on your website. So you've got 3 ways to play at it: put it on your website, put it as an article. Google's referencing both. Win-win. And it serves to show you as a thought leader in your space. So really, that's a sort of an overview of post versus article and why one over the other. It's just a thing. Articles just do not get engagement in the way that LinkedIn amplifies them, whereas posts do. And then just quickly touching on that point of how often. Well, this is a really good question, and I see some people just going mad and posting every day, some people post, would you believe, dozens of times a day. Like, what's the point in that? All you can possibly be doing is shoving noise into the universe, right? That has no value to anybody other than corrupting the airwaves with probably, you know, non-valuable content. I was tempted to use a different word there. Far better to produce some good content twice, 3 times a week that's got value, that you've thought about, that's crafted well, that is going to add value to the audience that's reading it, than just bombard them with constant content. And the other reason, and this is a critical reason, if I have in my world, I'm not a superstar, I'm not a celebrity. If I get a couple of thousand views of a video piece of content that I produce around the question of posts versus articles, which I did a few weeks ago, and I get, you know, a few thousand views of that video, the engagement that goes on inside that particular post is where the nuggets of gold are. The people asking questions. Nigel, I didn't realize this. Can I just ask you about that? What about this? I have a different opinion. Could I share that? The value of that engagement is huge. And if I'm going to have 100 comments inside a piece of content which has got a couple of thousand views, that takes time. But that's where the value of my personal brand is ever giving me back benefits, because the discussions that go on in that place allow me to differentiate myself as somebody who really knows my business in that commentary. So if I'm pushing out 3-4 pieces of content every day, I can't possibly follow the debate and the constructive discussions that are going on inside that content. So I need to give myself the time. If I publish what I think is a worthwhile piece of content, I need to give myself a few days to mop up on all the time it's going to take me to engage with my own article or my own post. So I'd rather do one piece of good content a week and have all the value from it, than just bombard people constantly with so much rubbish that my net effect in their life is zero. So it's about quality, not quantity, totally.
And just covering Rue's question around always talking about the business or adding personality. Any thoughts on, you know, whether you should be bringing out some personality as well?
It's I think there's a noticeable change happening that I've seen, particularly over the last 12, 18 months. It's very much a case of bringing in personality. It's not about business, facts, figures. Let me bore you with all the stuff I know. It's you know, one of the strongest things you can do on LinkedIn and in marketing in all social media is storify that content, give it context. You know, a funny thing happened to me today. You know, it wouldn't be like that. But if you put yourself in that story or a situation in a story, it's got so much more attractiveness than if you just tell it as a fact or a piece of intelligence. So that brings in it the sense to add your own personality. I don't do it too often, but occasionally I will post something completely off beam. I did one a few weeks ago at the early part of this lockdown that we're in, saying because the gov.uk published some stats about people's moods, happiness, stress, and I thought, I reflected on there was like 6 elements to this, and I reflected on this myself and thought, well, how am I feeling in relation to what you got, Dove, is telling me in terms of all these stats? And so I did a post based on, you know, I clicked the stat and I put that in as an image, and then I sort of said, okay, well, here's my view of all, you know, my stress, my happiness, blah blah blah, and it was not an altogether uplifting response, because, you know, my moods have been up and down in this period, just like anybody else's. So yeah. I felt it was appropriate to share that. You know, listen, and whose lives are perfect? You know, I think we're way beyond that. So actually to have a degree of vulnerability, you know, on LinkedIn as a personality, I think is endearing to an audience.
It's good having
the perfect human being. We're probably not going to be that attractive. So yes, personality is in there, fine, but LinkedIn isn't Facebook.
Yeah, yes. But I think what you're saying is it's good having a mix between articles and posts, and also between the types of content, etc. We're going to wrap this up very shortly, so we're just looking for a couple of very quick answers on this one. Sure. So does Nigel feel that we can overdo content post? I'm thinking about those who continually post about their business and add nothing to the wider conversation. In fact, we've just answered that question. That was Simon Robertson. Yeah. Thanks for asking that question.
I call that selling, Johnny. Selling. If all you do is talk about your business, that's selling. That ain't going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And finally, Joe Krebin, do you need to slightly differentiate between the article on LinkedIn versus the article on your blog for Google? I could answer that question. All I'd say from an SEO point of view, to avoid a duplicate content issue, just whichever one you post on first is the primary one. On the secondary one, just put a comment at the very bottom, which, or not a comment, but part of the text at the very bottom, which says originally posted on, and linked to the primary article, and that solves the duplicate content issue. With regard to do you write in a slightly different way, I guess that's about audience. So if you've got a different audience on your website to a different audience on LinkedIn, but Nigel, I'm sure, would have said that. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I mean, it's been a fascinating conversation. We could go on for a long time. We've got another final question there. This is the best presentation on LinkedIn I've heard. It makes so much sense. Thank you. That's Kathy Burns. That's really delightful to hear. But I'm conscious that if we went on too much longer, we'd lose people. So I don't want to do that. And it's brilliant that we've done so much. Nigel, if we wanted to find you online, or if you've got anything to promote. So first of all, have you got anything that you're wanting to promote? I know you're doing some webinars. Is there anything that you're wanting to promote, and where would we find you?
Well, quite simply at linkedintraining.co.uk is where you need to go. That's that simple. You search me on LinkedIn, Nigel Cliff, CLIFFE. You'll fall over me there as well. I do LinkedIn training for corporate bodies, individuals. My normal life is traveling quite a bit around the UK and beyond. Of course, in these times, that's completely curtailed. So like everybody else, I'm rethinking how I do some of that. But I'm hoping that at some point we return to some form of normality where I get back to sort of serving customers, usually in their premises. But I want to help everybody. I run a regular course in Leeds every month for anybody who wishes to attend, as I call it, my LinkedIn boot camp, and I've run that for 5 years and had over 1,200 people on that course. So if you really want to get to grips with understanding how LinkedIn can really make a difference for you, Dave's course, really, really valuable. Lots of people have been on it. Fantastic referrals off the back of that. So, and listen, if you've taken the time to look at the session with Johnny, and you've been here an hour, don't waste it. Go and make LinkedIn really shine for you. Honestly, most people completely underutilize it as a tool. If you get to know it, I guarantee you success on the back of it. I really do. You just got to understand it, have a strategy, have a bit of focus, get to know it, and make your business fly.
So true. Thank you very much for this session. It's been really helpful. It's been fantastic. Great sessions. Thank you both. Thank you, guys. Stay safe. Thanks, guys. Many thanks, Johnny and Nigel. Great session. Thank you. Really good. Great. Thank you. Some fantastic comments. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. Just to say to everyone that's watching, thank you for your time. I hope it's been helpful. What we want to know as the Coronavirus Yorkshire Business Support Group is, who else would you like us to be interviewing? What would you like to be asking? What topics would you like covering? Either drop some comments, send me a direct message, whatever you'd like, but let us know what you'd like to be hearing. Next week, we're doing a live Q&A with an employment lawyer, Paul Grinley from Winston Solicitors. I know my colleague Nikki Towler is going to be doing an interview with Leeds micro businesses for the Leeds City Council is going to be coming on to talk about micro businesses and how they're supporting them. Nigel, thank you once again for coming on. We really appreciate it. And we will see you all soon. Say bye from Nigel. I'll let Nigel say goodbye.
Right, thanks, Alison. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for listening, folks. Appreciate it.
And all take care, stay safe, and look after yourselves.